Do you want to make sure that you and your student are ahead of the game when it comes to admissions and paying for college? Or maybe you're down to the wire and you don't even know where to begin. You just need to know the steps to take. If so, this video is for you. In this video, I'm going to cover the 5 key areas that your family needs to plan for if you are planning to send your student to college. And I'm going to give some tips on how to go about that planning. Let's go ahead and begin. Now, before we get started, make sure you click subscribe because I cover a video with a new strategy every single week on how to work towards a debt-free degree for your student. Hello, my name is Jocelyn Pearson, founder of the Scholarship System, where we redefine paying for college so that it does not have to include student loan debt. Now, our main weapon against student loan debt is applying for scholarships, which is my bread and butter. In fact, our families have secured over $7 million to date. Now, one of the biggest aspects of getting that debt-free degree is having a plan. It's making sure that we know when to do certain things, when we need to submit applications, when should we focus on scholarships. All of these questions around all these different moving parts when it comes to going to college and paying for it. So this is very important when it comes to working towards that debt-free degree. Now, before we begin, do me a favor and comment below what school year is your student in. Let's do it by high school year. So if your student is a senior, say what year they're graduating. If they already graduated high school, say what year they graduated. So let's speak in terms of high school graduating class. And if you comment below, I will try to get back to you with an area that your family needs to focus on. So let's talk about what to plan for. So I've broken it down into 5 key areas. Now, if you want, we have free checklists by school year. We're going to link to those in the description. We have one for freshmen and sophomores in high school. We have one for juniors and we have one for seniors. So you can find those links below. So the first key area that you and your family should plan for is competitive factors. Now, this is referring to GPA or SAT score, ACT score. This is also considering involvement, just looking at our student and saying, okay, are we going to be able to sell you on an application? Do you have anything that you can write about, anything you can talk about? Is there anything on your resume that can help when it comes to getting into college? This is pretty early on. Ideally, families should be thinking about this freshman, sophomore year in high school. Now, that said, if you're at junior year and you're starting to look at this process and you realize, ooh, we don't really have that much, it's not too late. But I really recommend getting a few things under your student's belt by the end of junior year in high school so that they have more to talk about when it comes to scholarship applications, admissions applications, etc. Now, one of the things with this I want to point out is it's not about getting involved in everything under the sun. In fact, it's better for your student just to choose a couple things that they're really passionate about and dive deep into those. That's where they'll get the best stories, the best lessons, and committees will see that when they are looking at their application. This might be, for example, a part-time job and they are involved with a leadership position in a certain organization aligned with their future. So it doesn't have to be a million things here. We talk about that a lot in the scholarship system course in step 4, if you are in there. Now, the second area that we want to plan for is test taking. Earlier, I mentioned SATs, ACTs. There's also a PSAT. Now, these exams are very helpful for students that do well on the test taking. For example, if your student gets above average for the university that they're applying to, the chances of them receiving money from that university are a lot higher than if they were, say, below average. Now, because of COVID, there are a lot of universities that made test taking optional. In this situation, what I would recommend is having your student take the exams anyway, see what they get, and if the score is something that's at average or above, certainly submit it. Now, some colleges do require this, so you still want to make sure that your student is planning for these, studying for them, and preparing for them. As far as how many times to take this and when, we really recommend at least twice, if not 3 times. The reason being is the first time is honestly usually way lower than the second, just because your student doesn't know what to expect. So a lot of times they get a boost in their score the second time simply because they are more comfortable with the exam. Then they can look at where they excelled, where they had challenges, and they can study one more time for a third time. I really recommend having the score that your student wants by the end of junior year or by the end of junior year summer at the latest. In fact, some colleges have cutoffs as far as how late your student can take the test in order for it to be considered. That's typically in the fall semester of their senior year. Let's get into the third area that you want to plan for, and that is applications. So when we're talking about applications, actually first, you might include college tours in this because you want to make sure that your student isn't applying to 20 different universities. First, that's a lot of work, but second, that can get pretty expensive depending on the application fees. We have seen an increase in the average number of applications students are submitting, but that doesn't mean your student has to do that. If they have just a couple schools that they're really interested in, they know that they can afford them, etc., then focus on those, and that's completely fine. College tours, which can be done during junior year, even sophomore year in high school, those can be a great way to help reduce that list if that is an option for your family. Now, when it comes to deadlines, there's a few different categories. First, there is early action. This is simply where your student is applying earlier than the normal deadline so that they can get their answer before the normal deadline. So early action I've seen as early as October 15th requirement, even November 1st, or anywhere between November 1st and November 15th. Now, the nice thing about early action is your student is not binded to join that university if they're admitted, but they do get their response by Christmas time typically. So that is a perk that a lot of students love, is that by the end of fall semester, they can know what schools they are admitted to. Now, early decision, however, is where if your student is admitted, they will go to that school. They are promising to withdraw any applications to other universities, and they will commit to that university. Sometimes this, they say, can help your students' chances of getting into a university. I really caution doing these because you never know what the bill will be, what they're going to offer financially, etc. So there's a lot of unknowns here. So just be very careful with early decision. But that said, the deadlines are pretty much in line with early action, where you're looking at early November for the deadline for that. Then we have regular decision. This is typically January 1st through 15th. One exception to that is University of California or California's system, where they have it early. It's November 30th. I imagine this is because they have so many applicants. You'll also see some regular decisions that are a little bit later, maybe even into March or April, but for the most part, you're looking at January 1st that you'd want those regular decision applications to be completed. And last but not least, there's rolling admissions. And this is where they consider all the previous categories first, and then they start just going through the students that applied regular rolling admissions. So this doesn't necessarily have a deadline. However, once the class is full, the class is full once they've given out all their offers. So the sooner the better, but that is for those students that did not meet any of the previous deadlines, or where they just want to be considered as they are receiving the applications. Now, the fourth category is my favorite, and that is scholarships. So when it comes to scholarships, we want to apply as early as possible. In fact, there's scholarships out there for students as young as 4 years old. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. Now, when it comes to scholarships, the bulk of the deadlines your student should be focusing on would be junior year and on. So your student should be applying for scholarships by junior year in high school. Now, if this is already too late, if that time has passed, that's fine. There are deadlines all the way through senior year in high school and beyond. In fact, it's never too late to apply. They can apply all the way through their senior year in college. I know that sounds surprising. So when it comes to really knowing the timing of scholarships, there really is, we just want to start the earlier the better, and we just want to keep going until everything is paid for and maybe even we received an overage check. That said, there are tons of deadlines between October, December of their senior year, and then January through March of their senior year. So we really need to be looking at this before we get that final offer from the universities. If we wait until the bill comes in and then start looking, we've missed out on tons of deadlines. Now, I have a free training on where to find these scholarships, and if you want to, you can click the link below in the description. If you want to join us in that free training on how to secure scholarships, you can click the link below or go to thescholarshipsystem.com/free training and get signed up there. This free training will walk you through exactly how to build that list of legitimate scholarships, and I even talk a little bit more about some important deadlines that you don't want to miss. The fifth category of what we need to plan for, and then let's get into how to plan, is financials. So, when we are talking about planning for paying for college, this is important to meet with your CPA, your financial advisor, and understand what your financial situation is. We have a program called Debt Free Degree Lab where we talk about strategies of moving money and tax strategies, tax credits, things that we can do in our financial situation to improve the chances of our student getting more money from the universities and then reducing their chances of having to take out student debt. If you're interested in that, we have the waitlist linked below. We only open up the doors to that a couple times a year, but you can hop on that, and that way you know whenever we do open the doors to that program. This can include planning around 529s. It's never too late to begin one of those. Maybe it's time to start contributing. Maybe around FAFSA, ways that you can reduce the impact of your assets on FAFSA. If you want a reducing assets video, comment below and type assets video in the comments, and I will make sure to put that on our list. You might also want to plan, will your student work? And if so, where are you going to put the money? Now, if you want to see how much aid your student is getting, there's something called, what it used to be called the FAFSA forecaster, but now it is called the Student Aid Estimator. And that is a calculator through the government to see how much aid your student is estimated to receive. We will also link to that in the description. So as you can see, you need to go through the description because we have a ton of resources linked for you in there. The checklist, the free scholarship training, now the student aid estimator, and so much more. So just to close this, I want to talk about a few tips on how to plan for college. First and foremost, download the free checklist that I talked about. It's so helpful just to have a checklist so that you can just calm your mind and know that you have everything written down that needs to get done. Some of you may prefer a paper method or a binder method. I still recommend using Google Drive. That way you have it all saved on the cloud. You can access the information from any computer. You can save any kind of materials in there, maybe scholarship application materials, admissions applications, essays, etc. We give specific strategies on scholarship materials inside the scholarship system so that you can keep an organized system as well. But overall, the biggest thing here is you want it on a cloud-based system. That way you can access it from any computer at any time. It's constantly synced. You do not want to lose these materials or your planning materials. So just a few final tips. When to plan, the earlier the better. When your student is really young, you can find extra savings. They can shoot for certain goals when it comes to getting into the university that would get them more money. You can find outside scholarships that can help pay for college. There's so many different things that they can plan for the earlier that you start. Freshman year, sophomore year, we really want to focus on those competitive factors that I talked about. Also, you can start that scholarship hunt. Okay, so as you can see, a lot goes into planning for college. There are so many different moving parts, but that's exactly why organizations like the scholarship system exist. We've been there, we've done it. There's no need to reinvent the wheel when we already know how to do it. So make sure you take advantage of that free scholarship training in the description and all of the other resources that I mentioned below. I'm pointing you in the right direction. You'll have tons of help at your hands whenever you pursue these free tools that I am giving you. So that said, again, make sure that you comment below with an assets video if that's something that you are interested in, and get on that waitlist for Debt Free Degree Lab if you're interested in all the other strategies that we talk about. I will see you in the next video.